So my last video got accidentally cut off. So as I was beginning to just talk about the source of life and how I love to connect to the source of life and to me what that is. And I guess in a nutshell, to me the source of life is the beginning of life. And I believe that religion and science and man has tried to figure this all out and calculate this all out, and it's just not like that. The source of life, none of us can give the exact know how or how life began. Some people insert God and then a whole bunch of religious beliefs and doctrines and dogmas that come along with that. And this is the only way, and this is the way it happened, and blah, blah, blah. And then you have it on the scientific side where they say it came from the Big Bang, and it's all a stemming of evolution, and everything has a natural way of evolving. But neither one of those really can explain the source in the beginning of life. Evolution can use that to explain how life started on our planet or in our universe with the Big Bang. Religion can insert God, who has always been, but no one can really explain what it was. And no matter which way you look at the source of life, whether it's evolution stemming from nothing into something major, or God coming from nothing, or who always was, all of that is a miracle. No matter which way you look at it, life coming from nothing or life always being, no matter which way you look at it, it's a miracle. And if we try to label it and say, this is the way it is, and this is the way, this is the one truth, and this is the one way, that's when we get caught up in man trying to orchestrate everything and say, trying to rationalize with our infinite, finite minds, I should say. We just don't grasp how huge and amazing and incredible this universe is. And not just our universe. We're talking about multi-billions and trillions of universes. It is so huge and so amazing and so crazy awesome that we can't even begin to scrape the surface of the complexity of life. And yet, for some reason, we think that we have the one truth, the one way. And we will never have that fully like that as long as we are here on this planet. And as humans, I can never say what is to be in the foreseen future. I mean, I'm not going to be that type that's going to say, oh, one day we will, or one day we'll never will. We'll cross that bridge after, but I don't think we'll ever get to that place of full knowing anyways, because then that makes us the beginning, the source of life, in which we will always be learning and growing and knowing and understanding and learning, all of that. It's going to be a continual cycle of evolution and growth, no matter where we find ourselves. And no matter which end of the pendulum we find ourselves on. Someone might be coming from a completely natural, physical, scientific basis. Someone else may come from a complete spiritual basis. But to me, I believe it's a combination of both. I believe that the source of life is life experiencing itself through us. It's like through evolution, life is evolving and experiencing the good and the bad and what it's like with this and without this. And everything comes back to source, and it accumulates information through expressing itself through different forms of life. We are all connected to source. We are all part of source. We may not be the absolute source of life, but we're an extension of the source of life, kind of like the sun. We are not the sun, but we are the rays of the sun that extend out. Or think of an octopus that's going out and has all the different tentacles and stuff and experiencing every different type of thing. Life is just beautiful, and it's big, and it's gorgeous, and it's grand, and it's mysterious, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it doesn't feel so good. And it doesn't mean that there's good and evil things happen to us because we did something wrong or because of this or because of that, and trying to analyze it all away. Sometimes it's just a cycle of life that we learn, we make choices, we learn through ebbs and flows. We don't have to look at it like this big duality of a God in the sky looking down, and if you don't do things right, this is going to happen to you, and if you don't do this, or if you don't do that, or you don't believe this way, or all of that kind of thing. It's not like that. I don't believe it is. That's my perspective. I believe that's a limited human view that we have, because we're used to having the duality type of a mindset, because we are very much in a physical body. But I do believe that our soul lives on, and I believe that speaking in light language is part of that. That is a perspective that I've heard. There's different ways of looking at it, but I believe, for me personally, my perspective is that our consciousness does not die with this body. Science says that energy does not die, which in the quantum level, in the quantum field, they cannot explain all of the amazing things that is in this universe. They can't mathematically explain everything. Things don't follow all the rules like they once used to think. There would be absolute rules with things. In science, the deeper they dig, the more they find out in the quantum field that things don't line up as well as they thought. Just a second here. And so for us as humans, we think that we can package it all in a box and say, I've got the one way, I've got the one truth. And I think it's kind of like, think of God or the source of life, or just as an analogy, having a gigantic plate, and it's the truth. And he drops it and it shatters all over the earth. And everyone scatters to grab a piece. And when they grab their piece, they're like, I got the truth, I got the truth, I got the truth. But really, it's not until we all come together with our pieces of truth and put it together that the whole thing of truth is actually there. We all have parts of truth, but yet we all think that we've got the truth. And yes, we all have a piece of the truth, but we don't all have the truth. And the more we grow and the more that we evolve our consciousness and our understanding, and we open our minds and our perspectives, the deeper it all gets. And to me, that, I love mystery. I love the complexity of the universe. I think it's absolutely amazing. And I will never box myself like I once used to. For over 33 and a half years, I boxed myself within a certain religious mindset that I had. And then I went from that to trying to research my faith so much to prove someone else wrong that I actually proved myself wrong with my research, coming to find the contradictions that were within the spiritual text that I so much held to. And so then I ended up eventually, over time and over years, I adopted a more scientific view. But I always stayed open. I always knew there was more, but I just refused to articulate it, to pinpoint exactly what that was. And now I'm at a place this past year that I'm even at a deeper phase where, with my own personal evolution, and that is that I'm incorporating the beauty of evolution and the science and all of that wonderful stuff of information with a spiritual perspective that energy does not die. And I believe our consciousness goes on and continues to recycle into life and keeps coming back and relearning and learning and learning, and we evolve and we grow. And I'm not going to get into all of that. This whole post was just to show you an example of what light language was, and it ended up into being a lot more than what I anticipated. But maybe this was meant to be. Maybe someone needs to hear a different perspective. And if this perspective is refreshing to you, I hope it is. If it's not, and that's not the place that you're at, that's okay, because I've been there too. I've been through different phases, and each phase I kind of figured that I thought I had the truth. That's something that we do as human beings. We want to find the truth. We want the one way. We want to be right. We want to, but the thing is that we're constantly evolving and growing and changing if we're open. And that is really the ideal way to live our life. Who I am today, I will not be in 20 years. Who I was 20 years ago is not who I am today. Who I was 3 years ago is not who I am today. We're always growing and evolving and learning. That's what we're supposed to do. The day that we stay stagnant and say, nope, this is the only way, and we stop expanding our mindset and opening our mind to learn and for growth, is the day that we get stagnant. And we need just to be constantly be open to what is out there and the complexity and beauty of it all. It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay. It's okay to say, I don't know exactly what happens when I die, but this is what my perspective is, or this is what I believe happens, but I could be wrong. It's okay to say that. It really is. We don't have to have all the answers to everything. And I'm just going to probably leave it at that, I think. So in regards to speaking in light language, if you didn't see my previous video, I will link it in the description, how this all opened up into this whole topic of the source of life. It was just connecting with, giving an example of what light language is, also known as usually within Christian circles more, is also known as speaking in tongues or praying in tongues. And then in the more intellectual or scientific perspective, however you want to title that, it's also understood as glossolalia. So yeah, I wanted to give you a different perspective without all the religious or over spiritual woo-woo hype or whatever you want to call it, because it's easy to get caught up in circles. Whether it's within religious or spiritual or intellectual circles, we all have a tendency of getting into this mode of thinking that we are superior or we are extra spiritual, or, oh, look at me and look at this gift that I have, or how smart or intelligent I am and how much I understand, science or spiritual things or God, or I have the one way, the one truth, it's my perspective is right and you're wrong. And we put ourselves in all these different boxes when in reality we all have bits and pieces of the truth. And when we all come together and share those different perspectives and not trying to share it in a way to try to push our view as the right view. I mean, I still get caught up in that. Just a second. I lost my train of thought. My son came by to ask me a question. So I'm going to try to, the sun is setting, so it's going, there we go. So basically, I can't remember exactly where I left off, but basically we don't have to have the one truth. It's when we all come together with our different perspectives and our different viewpoints, and we listen to one another and try to understand where they're coming from. And when we can do that, we're like, we can grow, we can learn, we can evolve, we can expand our consciousness. Whatever way we want to look at it, whatever our language is to communicate, whether it's personal development, spiritual growth, or evolution. We can use different terminology, but we need to grow and we need to hear one another and expand each other's understanding and why we believe the way we do. And maybe even if someone's view is way off, maybe if we just try to hear from their perspective, we might get a little bit more understanding as to why they believe that. And we still might not agree, but we might be able to say, you know what, that actually I learned a little bit of something within that perspective, that I can see where you're coming from. And then you can share your perspective, and maybe you can each learn a little bit from the other person to adjust a bit more of our perspective. And maybe we will completely change our perspective because the other person's perspective, because we gave them enough time to explain really why they were coming from where they were coming from, we might be able to open up a little bit more. And sometimes it sneaks up on us. Sometimes we don't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. I was as passionate as they came within my evangelical Christian faith growing up for over 33 and a half years. I was so passionate about it. And, my views changed because I actually wanted to prove my views to someone else. And so I did the hardcore research. That changed me personally because I started to expand my mindset, not intentionally the way I anticipated, but it came up and surprised me. But now, and even when I went to a more sciencey perspective, and I had a perspective where, okay, well, Jesus was just a man, again, I thought that I was all right there, but now my perspective is changing again because I'm listening to other perspectives and learning different viewpoints and approaches other than through the religious section that I always grew up in. Now I believe our consciousness lives on, and that we grow, and that so if people talk to Jesus, to me, Jesus can be communicated with on the other side, and he does help people, and I can talk to my son. I'm actually sitting here at my son's grave. He passed away a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, at 16 years of age. And it was actually him that helped me to open my mind to see that, what, there's more. And I won't get into all of that. That's a whole other video in itself. But I had to begin open my mind. But I didn't open my mind in that perspective just because I had a loss. That's not how it happened for me. For me, I won't change my beliefs just because it makes me feel better. I want to change my beliefs because I have a reason for changing my beliefs, an understanding. I start to listen and open up my mind and my perspective to different things, and hearing other people's stories and different things. And yeah, sometimes grief does bring us to a different space. But for me, again, it didn't come because of that, but it came in the midst of it. A year later, it was the month of his anniversary, and there was just different synchronicities, and different things started happening after a while. Even though they were kind of happening before, I just put them all more as coincidences, but was open. And then they began to get deeper and more real and beautiful. And I knew that my son was trying to communicate with me and say, you know what, Mom? Yes, energy doesn't die, and it does recycle into life, but it's more than that. It's deeper than that. I am consciously aware, and anyways, that's a whole other thing, and that is a perspective that I have now. Other people may have a different perspective, and that's okay. But whatever way we want to look at it, I think we can all agree that energy doesn't die, and that life continues to recycle and live on. Whatever way we want to look at that, it's beautiful, and we can be open to change and to growth, and that's the important thing. And yeah, so light language, it went into a whole other a whole other path than I anticipated, but I believe that light language now is a language of the soul, and I just wanted to share a different perspective, and I hope somehow some of this encouraged some of you today. If you found anything good out of this that helped you in any way, click the like button. Feel free to comment below. If you don't agree or don't resonate with anything I said, that's okay too. You don't have to. Everyone's in a different space and in a different place. And we're, the way I like to say it is, we can agree to disagree, but we can also learn from one another and open our minds and just try to hear a different perspective sometimes. And sometimes that will help us, more often than not, to expand and grow. And it's all about personal development, spiritual growth, evolution. It's all there, and it's beautiful. And the complexities and amazing synchronicities and complexities of this universe are beyond our mind. They're beyond our mind. Stay open. We'll never know it all, and we can never box such an amazing, incredible life into our little box of a mind, ideas of what we think it all is. Stay open, stay beautiful, and shine your light.